Okay guys, before we put the shifter in the car, we've been getting a lot of emails from a lot of new customers as well as previous Mgw shifter customers for their GT500 asking us the main questions. Why did we come up with this new design? What is different about it? How does it improve on the factory one? And also, how does it improve on the Mgw Gen 1 shifter? So we're going to break this entire shifter down to tell you exactly why we designed it this way, what features it has, and what advantages it has over the OEM unit, as well as the other designs out there that work with the same concept using this factory linkage arm. So we'll pull the Mgw out of the way for a second here, and we'll focus on the OEM unit, and we'll break down the issues that we saw with it. Now, the first thing that everybody knows is the factory shifter, the rear support bracket, is really garbage. It's very soft rubber. It offers a lot of play. It offers no support for the rear of the shifter, and you get a lot of torque binding when you do shifts. So that is replaced obviously with our rear gold bracket with the interchangeable inserts. But that was the same for the Gen 1 shifter. The main problem with this type of shifter design, this is called a linkage remote style shifter. And if you look in the bottom, you'll see that this arm is actually not along the center line of the output shaft. If you go here and look, this is where the actual transmission output shaft is connected to the shifter. It comes in along the center line, but then it drops a good 1.5 to 2 inches below the center line, and then it works like a pendulum. It actually hangs down below the pivot mechanism. The problem with that is that you're not rotating it along its center line up here. You're actually rotating it by swinging it. And when you swing it, we'll pull this thing up like this. When you move this, you'll see that you're getting a lot of lateral travel instead of actual rotating of the shaft. And when we get this thing installed, the Mgw installed in the car, you're going to be shocked at how much decrease in left to right movement we have, because we are only going to rotate the shaft. We are not going to be swinging it like this side to side. And this is the problem that plagues the GT500 shifters, is that when you put it in gear, you can still wiggle the shift knob like this, and people hate that. And that was one of the biggest complaints that people asked us if we could eliminate, and that's what we did with this new style shifter. The other problem, as everybody knows, is the rear bush or the front arm bushings are soft rubber. They have a little plastic insert, but they provide very little stability in the front. So even with these two arms here and with this soft rubber bracket, you can actually move this thing around a lot. And we've had people actually post on some of the forums just how much play this thing actually has. So those are the weaknesses with the OEM shifter. We're going to address all those problems with our new design. Okay, so here is our new Mgw Gen 2 GT500 shifter. And as you can see at first glance, this thing is built like a tank. The main difference that you'll see right off the bat is here is our center shaft. This is an extension of the output shaft in the tail housing of the factory transmission. This is 1-inch round hardened stainless steel. It goes straight through the body of the shifter, and we'll break it apart in a second here, but I want to just show you how it works. When you rotate the shift knob, or the shift knob shaft, I should say, it is a 1-to-1 relationship with how much rotation you get on the shaft. So when you turn it this way, this entire shaft rotates. So you're really only going to need about that much travel to get into first and second gear gate. There's absolutely no play. When you push it forward to get into third gear, you will not be able to wiggle this thing. It will be solid. It will really feel like a top loader transmission shifter, because that's the way we designed it. One of the added benefits is there is not a universal swivel here anymore because it's along the center line. You only need a vertical swivel to let it move up and down, just so you can install it into the car and pull it up into the rear bushing bracket. But this now allows the center shaft to work like a third support arm. So you have 50% more torsional rigidity on this shifter than you did with the OEM unit or any other shifter design that's on the market. This thing allows it to travel up and down, so that if there's slight variances in the transmission height, it doesn't matter, but it allows no movement left to right. And as you can see, our arms are also beefed up. We have stainless steel end caps with hardened rubber cores inside. They are very stiff, but they do dampen vibration. We don't believe in putting polyurethane inserts in our shifters, because we can get rubber that's a very hard durometer. It does the same mechanical property as the polyurethane, but it does dampen vibration. Same with our rear bushing brackets. We will never use polyurethane because we can engineer the rubber to be hard enough to be very rigid, but it still dampens vibration coming in through the shifter. Now we'll break apart the shifter a little bit and I'll show you the inside of it. Take the top piece off. Now one of the shifters that we've designed quite a few years back was our Corvette shifter, and we have engineered a very high temp polyurethane sphere, and we're utilizing that same exact part in our shifter for the GT500. This sphere does a lot of good things with the shifting feel. Instead of putting one of those little plastic pivot cups in there, this sphere gives you a lot less drag, and it is a lot smoother in articulation of the pivot cup. It also dampens vibration. It's very hard. When you feel it, you almost think it's made out of aluminum, but it's actually made out of a polyurethane blend. So you don't get a metal to metal feel in the pivot cup with the sphere. It actually dampens vibration very well. And if you look in here, if you've ever owned an 03, 04 Cobra or an 04 and older Mustang, this should be very familiar to you. When you pop this thing open, it looks just like a top loader transmission, and that's why the design feels like a top loader. This is a pivot cup that we put on this very large bronze bearing, and this bearing supports a good 3 inches long. So when you put that in there, and this is turned down and centerless ground to 3/4 inch, and it has absolutely no play, but it's very smooth articulating. And this pivot cup, the ball rides in there so that you have a 1-to-1 pivoting mechanism. Makes it very smooth, but very stout. Okay, this is our 2012 project car. We're gonna put our shifter in. And before we put it in, I wanna show you exactly what we were talking about the issue with the factory shifter. This actually has the SVT Performance Pack shifter in it. So as you can see, it's got very little movement front to back. It's almost too short because it's very notchy, and a lot of people have problems with second gear. But here's the real issue. This is neutral. That is 4th gear, and that's ridiculous. That looks like it's in neutral, and that's what people really, really complain about, is that they're sitting in a stoplight and they think they have the car in neutral, and it's actually in gear. And you can tell there's nothing you're gonna be able to do to get rid of all of that play with that linkage style transmission shifter design. And it really makes the shift from 2 to 3 a crapshoot. I mean, that's just insane. Here's 3rd gear. I mean, we're talking about over 1 inch of play left to right. That's terrible. Okay, we showed it with the console on, but we just want to show you again real quick. Here's the linkage rod we're talking about that goes to the transmission. As you can see, it comes out the center, but then it drops down and goes underneath the shifter. And that's the problem with the design. I'm going to put it in gear. Look how much play you have. I mean, that's well over 1 inch of travel, and that's actually in 3rd gear, and that's horrible. When you go into neutral, you have that dead area. There's not even any spring pressure. There's no springs in the transmission. See how it can move easily like that? That's that dead play, and that's the design flaw in the factory shifter. Okay, when the shifter's all installed, just test it through the gears. We'll go ahead and run through the gears and we'll show you. Now the first thing you'll notice is the amount of travel to get over to 1st to 2nd is over 50% less than the stock shifter. The effort's a little higher also because of the mechanical leverage, but it's not excessive. And we are going to offer a 1 inch taller shift knob handle as an option when you order them. In case you feel that it's too much for you, you can buy a taller handle to give you more mechanical leverage. But when we get it in gear, as you can see, very little play in gear. That's just a little bit of input shaft play, but not the 1/2 inch movement. As you can see, just very little travel. That's 5th gear gate, 1 to 2 gate. And there's your travel, nice and smooth. You can actually shift it just with your fingertips. This will put a lot less stress on the 2nd gear synchro, so you should be able to eliminate that grind. Much more solid, stout feel in the shifter. Very little movement.